when Jay and Susan and I were working on Cycle of the Gift, we came up with a term of vocabulary that we found very helpful, that families around the world have found helpful, even from different cultures and different places. And this is this distinction that we make between gifts with spirit or transfers. So gifts with spirit or transfers. So just to spend a moment on this piece of vocabulary here. A transfer is, of course, what it sounds like. It's a movement of an asset from one person's balance sheet to another. As complicated as it might be, that's simply what it comes down to. It's what most of us and most of our clients do all the time, right? A transfer often involves little or no communication. The recipient of a transfer may not even know he or she has received that transfer. It may be completely opaque to the recipient. What's even more striking and more surprising is that in many cases, the givers themselves, the makers of transfers, are not clear as to why they are doing what they're doing. Besides perhaps being told by an advisor whom they trust that, this would be a really good idea for tax savings or for protection from creditors. In other words, if we go back to Isabella and what I was saying before, the intention behind a transfer is usually materialistic, focused on some asset, some money, and it's usually negative. The goal being to keep the money out of somebody's hands, whether the government's or maybe future disgruntled spouses or future ne'er-do-well heirs. That it's a negative intention. And as all of you know, this is often how so-called giving takes place. But as the Jewish philosopher Maimonides taught about 800 years ago, the lowest form of giving is grudging, right? It's when we have that negative intention of trying to keep something away from somebody, grudging giving. Or as the Roman philosopher Seneca taught about 2,000 years ago, the manner in which a gift is given will determine how it is received. Think about that for a minute. The manner in which a gift is given will determine how that gift is received. How would you feel, after all, if you received a supposed gift that you knew the giver had given to you grudgingly? Or a gift that you knew the giver had given thoughtlessly, wasn't even thinking about you or the consequences for your life. Or that you knew the giver had given with remorse and even resentment. How would you feel receiving a gift of that sort? Now, given that this is the manner in which many gifts, that is transfers, are actually made, is it really all that surprising to us how poorly they are often received, right? We often, or our families are often quick to blame the recipient when things go wrong. And sometimes there's good reason there. But if the manner in which a gift is given really does determine how it's received, then think about the effects of that remorse, resentment, or just simply unthinking giving that takes place. So let's compare then what we've been calling transfers with what I said we call gifts with spirit or true gifts. Well, a gift with spirit has a purpose. It's a purpose that the giver has thought through, that the giver has some clarity around. It's a purpose that the giver feels is in alignment with his or her values, his or her history. The giver communicates that purpose to the recipient, or if the recipient is not old enough to receive that communication, the giver communicates that purpose to a trustee whose true and highest purpose is not just to serve as a guardian of the money or the assets, but to serve as a guardian of that purpose and to convey that purpose, to share that cycle of the gift, to share that spirit with the ultimate recipient.